Hey, how you doing, guys? Happy 4th of July, which was just yesterday. This is the 5th of July. And I'm really excited because it felt like I haven't made videos in a while, but it's just been last week. So this week, we're actually going to do some question and answers from my YouTube comments from my channel. And then afterward, we're going to talk about some of the things I've been working on. I have been a little bit busier. So let's get started. And actually, this is really a comment from Shane Bolin. And this is a response to the OBS Studio video that I did. Great video. I watched a lot of your videos. I find some of your knowledge to be of great help from time to time. As someone whose passion is videography and audio production, I remember have to use XSplit before OBS was available, not to live stream, but to record one of my capture cards, and it was so hardware intensive that it'd crash or the audio would be out of sync. And then he just goes on to say that since using OBS Studio, he found it to be a lot more useful. And I agree. I mean, it's just kind of amazing. Like I said, I kind of compared it with Wirecast. You're going to spend almost $500 or more. And OBS Studio is catching up quickly. And like I said, I can't justify the price to do an upgrade when I can use OBS Studio instead. Now, it's not quite ready for my use. Hopefully in the next couple of versions, I can replace it completely from Wirecast. And in fact, I'm using Wirecast right now to record this video. So yeah, I agree. Thanks for watching and thanks for your comment. And this next comment comes from Humble Pie. This has to do in response to my firmware upgrade from for the Canon C100 Mark I that I have. Now he says, what exactly does this new firmware do? I'm using the C100 Mark II, but don't understand what it does. I've read the instructions from the Canon website, but get little out of it. What can I change in the manual settings that can help me manipulate the video? Please help. Thanks. And actually, we're going to go over that now. And really, firmware updates, upgrades really do many things for you. They can add new features. They can bug fixes, fix problems with lenses and other things. So we're going to actually go over that. And in fact, we may actually do most of the updates. Now, it doesn't seem to actually give you a lot of features for the Mark II, but you have to think too as well. When the Mark II came out, it put in a lot of the updates features from the Canon C100 Mark I, which includes being able to go to ISO 80,000. Actually, I think the Mark II actually goes up to 120,000, but so it adds a lot of the enhancements you already had from the Mark I version. Now, we're going to look at the latest firmware update. It doesn't really add a whole lot, but it's very important though. Now this one, it says add shutter priority mode to the Mark II. Now what shutter priority is this has to do with setting your frame rate to your shutter speed. And this is kind of even goes back to the early years of filming. To be able to give an example, if you do 24 frames per second, normally you want to maintain a shutter speed at twice that amount, which is 48. And then you'll actually get the correct amount of blur. Actually, if your frame or your shutter speed's too high, it will actually it'll look a little bit too clean and unnatural, kind of digital. So it kind of gives you that cinematic feel look to your video. Now, you can set your shutter speed to different ways. Now, if you set it to angle, and you can set it actually to 180 degrees, it automatically adjusts for this frame rate to shutter speed ratio automatically. So let's say you're at 24 frames per second at 48. If you have it set on an angle and you said, hey, I need to go to 60 frames per second because I'm going to be doing some slow motion, so it'll automatically adjust. And let me see, 60, what is that? At shutter speed at 120, I believe that's the correct shutter speed for 60 frames per second. So I'll automatically set that for you. Now, what this does is fix a problem with the shutter priority that didn't work. You change your frame rates and it wouldn't set the correct shutter speed. So now that fixes that. It also adds peripheral illumination correction on one of Canon lenses, in this case the EF-24-105 lens, which I happen to have right now and I'm actually using. But we're going to get to that a little bit later. Now we're going to talk about some older firmware updates because it all depends. If you bought the Mark II when it first came out, then there's several updates since then, so we're going to cover some of the other ones. We're going to talk about version 1031 next. Now, apparently the aperture wheel on the hand grip for Canons, which is also known for the DSLR line as well, doesn't necessarily work on all Canon lenses. And you just move the wheel and it would set your aperture, your f-stops, as you're moving the wheel. Now, this doesn't necessarily work on all lenses. Also new for this firmware is there's a lot of Canon Cinema lenses that have come out, and then some that actually have a servo motor that will zoom in and out for you using a servo motor. If anybody who uses some of the Canon still photography lenses with the Cinema line, you don't get a very smooth zoom because it's not really made for video. It's made for still photography. So some of the newer Cinema lenses, ENG lenses, will now have that new focus or zoom where you can actually push it in and it will zoom smoothly in and out for you. Okay. So this new firmware update will enable autofocus or dual pixel CMOS AF feature for a lot of new lenses, and usually they'll specify which lenses it will affect. Add support for Canon's new remote control for the LANC connection, which is their RCV100, which is pretty expensive. I believe it's over $1,000. I'm like, yikes. You see, we also have something with adds auto aperture, push auto iris for some of the lenses support, metadata. So often when you connect to different lenses, it will send information, camera information or lens information to your camera for things like the model, the focal length, aperture, and things like that to the camera, which is in turn may be recorded to a file net recorded by the metadata. Now there's something also called peripheral illumination correction. Now this has to do kind of with vignetting. Now I'm not talking about vignetting due to crop factor in the type of lenses to the type of sensor you have. That's not what I'm talking about. Even if you take that in account, there can still be some vignetting. It's just because that's the way lenses and physics work, I guess. And what it's talking about is the way the exposure is even from the center of this the sensor all the way to the edges or the four corners, and it corrects that in camera depending on what lens you have attached. And so it takes that vignetting away and allows you to, you know, if you want to do vignetting in post, which is fine, and many people use it for effect in both video and photography, but you can enable that in the Canon's menu to turn the illumination or peripheral illumination correction on, and then depending if your lens is supported, it will take that vignetting or makes the that vignetting on the corners away. Those are some of the things that you can find for firmware updates for different cameras. Now, you can actually go to Canon's support page for your camera, and you can even go to the download section, and I'm not even talking about downloading it and installing it, but go to the release notes. It'll actually give you information on that firmware update. It'll tell you bug fixes, new features, lens support, all that in the release notes before you even download it, and that'll give you some more information. Okay, since those were my some of my YouTube questions and comments, I'm going to talk a little bit about my channel. Now, lately I've been pretty busy. I do have a promo video that I'm going to be doing on Friday for Goodwill Industries. So I've been working on that, doing some. It's kind of big. It's kind of going to be hard because I'm going to. Sometimes I work in different environments. Low light situations is one thing, and this particular photo shoot is probably going to be in very bright sunlight. So I've been doing some testing, and I chose the Canon C100 because it does have real glass ND filters, which will help me correct for the bright exposure and to make it more useful. Some of my other cameras don't have the ND filters. You have to use put it on manually, which takes too much time. And I've had some exposure problems with some of the other cameras. So that's why I chose the Canon C100 for this particular shoot. I'm going to talk in length for a future video on that. I've talked about low light quite a bit. Now we're going to talk about very bright light and things that you can do to correct for that, and some of my own problems with this upcoming photo shoot. Also, I have some family visiting as well, so I'm going to try to keep up on my weekly video, at least one for every week or a couple. There's some other things that have been going on as well, such as Avid just released their new video stuff coming out, so I'm going to be talking about that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the video, and thanks for watching, and please, if you like my channel, please subscribe and like my videos, and till then, you have a great rest of your 4th of July, I was going to say weekend, but that's going to be coming up. See you later. Thanks.